The most dangerous serial killer in modern history wasn't on your favorite true crime podcast. He probably wasn't in the documentary you watched last Tuesday. He's number 1 on this list, and there's a good chance you've never said his name out loud. This is the top 20 serial killers in the world, ranked by confirmed body count, active years, and the scale of what they did before anyone stopped them. Not by how famous they are, not by how many Netflix deals their story generated. By the actual damage. Let's go. 7 confirmed victims. Florida, 1989 to 1990. She kills at the low end of this list, and she makes it anyway. Not purely on numbers, but because of what her case broke open. Warnos was a sex worker who claimed every single killing was self-defense. Courts convicted her on all 7 counts. She was executed in 2002. Her case produced a major film, multiple documentaries, and a genuine reckoning about whether motive matters differently depending on who's doing the killing. She starts the list at 20 because 7 bodies is 7 bodies, and the conversation she forced wasn't one the true crime world was having before her. That name, bind, torture, kill, he gave it to himself in letters he mailed to police. 10 murders across Wichita, Kansas between 1974 and 1991. Here's the thing about Rader that investigators could never fully process. He was a church president, a compliance officer. He had a wife, kids, a job enforcing local ordinances. Neighbors found him a little uptight. That was it. He wasn't caught for 31 years, and when he finally was, it was because he mailed police a floppy disk he assumed was untraceable. It had metadata with his church's name on it. After 3 decades of evading detection, a floppy disk. 17 victims. 1978 to 1991. Milwaukee. He ranks here, not higher, because 17 is the number, and the number is what this list uses. But the reason Dahmer stays on it at all is this. He was reported to police while actively offending, multiple times. In one instance, a neighbor called police about a young man found disoriented on the street. Police checked, spoke to Dahmer, accepted his explanation, and returned the victim to his apartment. That victim was one of his last kills. Dahmer was convicted in 1992 and murdered by a fellow inmate in 1994. 13 confirmed murders. California, 1984 and 1985. What made him genuinely difficult to track wasn't just that he didn't have a fixed location. It was that he had no fixed victim type. His victims ranged from 9 years old to 83. Detectives looking for a pattern couldn't find one because he didn't have one. He was caught in 1985 when residents of an East Los Angeles neighborhood recognized him from a circulated sketch, chased him down, and physically held him until police arrived. He died in prison in 2013, still on death row after nearly 3 decades of appeals. At least 49 confirmed murders, a pig farm outside Vancouver. Mostly women from the city's downtown east side. Sex workers and drug users whose disappearances authorities later admitted with something close to institutional shame weren't treated as urgently as they should have been. Police received tips about Picton's farm years before a full investigation was launched in 2002. He was convicted of 6 counts of second-degree murder. Additional charges were stayed. He died in prison in 2023. 30 confirmed victims across multiple states throughout the 1970s. Likely more. Bundy lands at 15, not because 30 is the ceiling. We'll get to why 30 isn't even close to the ceiling, but because his case reshaped how American law enforcement thinks. His profile directly informed the development of behavioral analysis and criminal profiling as formal disciplines. He was charming, articulate, and law school educated. The gap between how he presented and what he was doing behind that presentation is what broke the existing frameworks investigators were working from. He was executed in Florida in 1989. 4 confirmed victims, all children. a hospital in Lincolnshire, England, 1991. She ranks not on volume, but on method and breach of trust. Allett was a pediatric nurse who administered lethal doses to patients as young as 7 weeks old while their families sat nearby, completely trusting her. Deaths were initially attributed to natural causes. It took months of pattern analysis before the investigation turned to her. She was convicted in 1993 and remains incarcerated. Her case produced direct, lasting changes to how the United Kingdom screens and monitors healthcare workers. 67 confirmed murders, 4 Chinese provinces, 1999 to 2003. He attacked rural households at night, killed every person inside and moved on. Used whatever was nearby, axes, hammers, farming tools, entire families. He isn't more widely known outside China, partly because media access during that period limited international coverage, and partly because the true crime industry's gravitational pull runs heavily through English-language content. On confirmed body count, Yang Xinhai has no business being 13th on any list of this kind. He was caught in 2003, confessed, and was executed in 2004. He offered investigators no motive. He said there wasn't one. None of those 13 people are in the top 12. Let that work on you for a second, because the number 13 is 67 confirmed victims across 4 years, and it's not close to the top 12. 49 confirmed murders. Washington State, 1982 to 1998, 16 years. During that time, Ridgway worked the same job at a truck manufacturer for 30 years, married 3 times, went to church regularly. He was caught in 2001 through a DNA match to evidence collected years earlier. To avoid execution, he cooperated fully, walked investigators to sites where victims had never been found. He's serving life in prison. The families of victims sat through those debriefs. 52 people killed between 1989 and 1996, primarily in rural Ukraine during winter months. He targeted isolated farmhouses. He left no survivors because he killed everyone inside. For years, investigators refused to believe a single person was responsible. The scale seemed impossible for one individual. It wasn't. He was caught in 1996 at a relative's house. Convicted, sentenced to death, later commuted to life. He died in prison in 2013. At least 71 confirmed kills. Brazil, from the late 1960s through the mid-1990s. A significant portion of his victims were criminals, gang members, drug dealers. While incarcerated, he killed his own father. He served 34 years, was released in 2007, and subsequently became a minor social media personality in Brazil, giving interviews and posting videos online. There is genuinely no good way to end that sentence. 33 young men and boys. Cook County, Illinois, 1972 to 1978. 26 of them were buried beneath his house. He was a construction contractor. He volunteered at events. He was photographed shaking hands with a first lady. After his arrest in 1978, excavation of his property took months. His case forced a conversation that law enforcement hadn't fully committed to having, that a person could be a functional, visible, socially normal member of a community and be doing this. 42 women and girls. North Sumatra, Indonesia, 1986 to 1997. Victims came to him voluntarily. He presented himself as a healer, someone who could cure illness and reverse misfortune. He told investigators he was following instructions from his deceased father, received in a dream, that murdering women and burying them to their waists in soil would give him power. He was executed in 2008. The women who came to him were looking for help. At least 48 people killed in Moscow's Bitsevsky Park between 1992 and 2006. He tracked his victims on a physical chessboard, a coin for each kill, the goal being to fill all 64 squares. He was convicted in 2007. In court, he argued the prosecution's count was too low. He wanted it higher. He's serving life in a Russian penal colony. The chessboard, as of his arrest, was not full. 38 women. South Africa's Gauteng region, 1994 to 1995. Barely over a year. He posed as a job recruiter and targeted unemployed women, building enough trust to lure them to remote areas. He was caught in 1995 after a phone call to a journalist became a public standoff. He received 109 years in prison, plus a concurrent death sentence that was never carried out. 38 women in 14 months. 6 on this list. The top 5 are a different conversation. In terms of body count, duration, and the specific kind of systemic failure that allowed them to continue, they belong in a category of their own. At least 52 women and children. Russia, Ukraine, Uzbekistan, 1978 to 1990. He was a school teacher. He was detained by police multiple times during his active years, including once when a blood test should have implicated him. It didn't because of a rare biological anomaly that caused his blood type and secreted fluids not to match. That anomaly let him walk out of custody. He kept killing for years afterward. He was finally caught in 1990, convicted, and executed in 1994. The cities where he operated still carry what happened there. 83 confirmed murders. Siberia, 1992 to 2010. He was a police officer who used his uniform and vehicle to approach women late at night without raising suspicion. He was offering rides. His colleagues investigated his crimes for nearly 2 decades. He attended crime scenes in his professional capacity. He wasn't identified until 2012, when DNA from a cold case connected back to him. He confessed to an additional series of killings in a second trial in 2018, 2 consecutive life sentences. His colleagues shook his hand at crime scenes for 20 years. At least 110 confirmed victims. Colombia, Ecuador, Peru. 1970s through the 1980s. He confessed to more than 300. He led Ecuadorian police to 53 graves. He was convicted in Ecuador in 1980, served 16 years, the legal maximum, and was released in 1998. Interpol issued a warrant. He hasn't been seen since. He may be alive right now. He's never been rearrested. The warrant is still open. At least 218 confirmed victims. England, 1975 to 1998. He was a general practitioner. Patients requested him by name. He administered lethal doses of diamorphine during routine home visits to elderly patients, almost all women. He wasn't caught through any investigative breakthrough. He was caught because he forged the will of one of his patients. Clerical oversight, not detective work. A government inquiry estimated his actual total may have reached 250. He died in prison in 2004. His patients trusted him completely. That was the mechanism. 138 confirmed victims. Colombia and Ecuador. 1992 to 1999. 7 years. The real number is suspected to be closer to 300. Many victims were never identified, never found, never connected to a name. He was caught in 1999, confessed in detail, and walked investigators to burial sites. Under Colombian law at the time, his sentence, adjusted for cooperation with investigators, came out to under 23 years. He is currently incarcerated. The math on his release date is not comfortable. Here's the thing about a list like this. Every name here is a real person with a real method and real victims, real families, real cities that lived in fear for years while one person moved through them undetected. We ranked them. We're watching a video about it. That's a strange thing to sit with. Not wrong, not shameful, but genuinely strange and worth naming. True crime isn't going away. The podcasts, the docuseries, the YouTube deep dives. This format has become one of the dominant ways people process the fact that the world occasionally produces someone like Harold Shipman or Luis Garavito, or the man on a Siberian police force who attended his own crime scenes. The question is what you take from it. Understanding how these cases happen, what allowed them to continue, what failed and when, that's worth the time. Pure fascination with the numbers and the nicknames, that's worth examining. Anyway, that's the list. The linked video goes deeper on one of these cases if you want to keep going. Subscribe if you're already this far in. And as always, trust me, bro.